Chris Jericho gave us a big long spiel this past Wednesday on Talk Is Jericho. All about the blood and guts cage match in AEW, the controversial blood and guts cage match in AEW. Chris Jericho talks all about it, walks us through it from concept through execution and fan reaction. Check out this clip when Jericho addresses the infamous bump. We can call it that, right? We can refer to it as infamous, can we not? The infamous bump off the top of the cage. This is Jericho's 2 cents. Check this out.
Then there comes a point where you just got to go for it and do it. So when we were fighting on top of the cage and you know, Sammy surrenders and then the bell rings, the music plays, and then Max kind of pulls me up again and then gives me the little shove. And I said, give me a shove. Like, I need to feel something so I can take a little bit of a pushback. And I stepped back, and I thought this bump would go by fast, but I just kept looking at him and looking at him and looking at him as I fell. And then I landed. And of course, it takes the breath out of you and kind of, you know, trust me. I've seen a few people bagging on the fact that it was a crash pad or this and anything. And once again, no crash pad. It was cardboard box. I don't give a shit if it was a crash pad. It's one of those things where doing that, it felt great. And I didn't, you know, obviously it hurts. You're paying the price, but I could move my arms and legs and I wasn't, you know, dead or knocked out. And I was like, this is great. What a perfect finish for this. And it took the wind completely out of the sails of the crowd. They just went completely silent. And I just laid there until they basically took me away on a stretcher. And it was only later on that I started hearing kind of like, oh, people thought that the fall was on a crash pad and it didn't look great. And for me, like, I watched it back. I thought it looked amazing. And like I mentioned earlier, there's some hardcore wrestling fans that were bagging on it. And that's fine. I mean, you have the right to bag on it. And out of the 1.3 million people that watched it, like I said, if 3,000 people didn't like it, well, it's a very small percentage. Most people just thought it was crazy, as did I. But it's one of those things that I hope you enjoyed it, because you'll never see me do it again. Ever.
Defiant, as always, Jericho is in believing that I don't know how he could say with a straight face that he thought it looked great when he watched it back. I mean, the execution was good, but it wasn't even the crash pad that really bothered me all that much. It was the cardboard over the top of it. You could see underneath it that it was cardboard. Like, you couldn't paint the other side, or if those board fucking thingies that they were trying to pass off as metal, the metal staging, the grates or whatever the fuck, you know, the textured shit, like the steps. There's a name for that. I don't remember what it's called. You know what I'm talking about, though. If the other side had been painted to look metallic also, or coated with whatever, I don't think it would have looked as bad. I think I think you would have been able to pass it off as plausible a lot more. You still would have seen the crash pad, but you would have been like, okay, I get it. The other thing they could have did is just made the stage higher or put the crash pad lower. You know, for example, like when Taz and Bam Bam Bigelow went through the ramp in ECW, it's plausible because it was ECW, but I don't think they fell just down to the concrete floor. I'm sure there was some kind of padding underneath there. Granted, it wasn't a bump off a 15-foot high steel cage, but still, there's ways that you can hide things better. And if you can't, you can just shoot it better. So he can't sit with a straight face and be like, oh yeah, I thought it looked great. He's delusional. He's delusional at that point. Other than that, the blood and guts match was great. I love hearing these behind the scenes type things. I love hearing when wrestlers walk you through it. You know, this is anatomy of a match 101. You know, Jericho tells you what every decision was and why it was made all the way through. You know, from the coin toss thing to the promos to all of it. I don't think by itself this was as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. But I think on the heels of the exploding barbed wire debacle, I think it leaves that extra stink that extra bad taste in everybody's mouth. everybody was still kind of sour from the exploding barbed wire. And they're like, okay, well, whatever. It's in the past, but we got blood and guts tonight. And it was bloody and it was violent. And then it just got weird at the end, Like the desired reaction when you see that is to go, holy shit. We know as pro wrestling fans that he's not falling on concrete. He's not falling on steel. We know that they're going to gimmick the landing somehow. He's not Mick Foley. But you don't want to just show it to us in front of our face. This is the equivalent of a movie with a special effect where you can see the wires when something is flying. Superman's flying across the screen and you can see the wires he's hanging from. They didn't edit them out. And then they come back on and they're like, I don't know what anybody's talking about. I think the movie looks great. It doesn't look great. You can see the wires. We all know that something is going to be gimmicked to break his fall. We're okay with a crash pad. If you're not, you're just a sadist and you just want to see people suffer and get hurt. That's stupid. But what we don't want is it to be just shoved in our face. Regardless, I would seek this out just for the fact that it's always fun to hear a wrestler go in depth behind the scenes on every single detail of a match. This was absolutely anatomy of a match with just one man, Jericho. It would have been nice if he had like the full inner circle on or something like that, but very kayfabe breaky, very interesting, but also very delusional if he thinks that looked good. Talk Is Jericho every single Wednesday and Friday. Go listen.
Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.